Good evening, everybody. Welcome to what is your first? I think is it? We're here. Is this your first edition of 2026? I can't remember now. Of Not Another Rangers podcast.
Gary, I think.
Is it? I'm trying to remember the dates here. So, welcome to Not Another Rangers podcast. It's been a tumultuous 48 hours in Scottish football, not least across the city and up in Aberdeen, and as well as an Old Firm win at Parkhead to talk about. And as in the comments already, we've got Big Willie, who's actually a podcaster, nothing else. Casey thinks there's more to that.
I don't get any ideas about that, by
the way. So I'll come to you first then. How are you, Willie, then? How's things?
Hi, mate. It's not bad. I've been working, obviously, the last couple of days as well, so obviously all the banter and work and stuff like that is good, and because I work, obviously, kind of centrally in Paisley and stuff like that, a lot of the guys are big St Mirren fans, so it's been like kind of 2 against 1 most of the time the last couple of days of work, so it's been good banter, and I don't think anybody's obviously surprised about what's happened since the game, but look, we still enjoyable to win the game, and that's obviously the most important thing from your point of view.
And I will deep dive into the game in a little bit of time, and so I'll spend as much as we can on it, given the fact that tomorrow's game may not even take place. So we'll spend some time previewing that as well. Scott, how are you? Happy New Year to you, and all. Happy New Year to the audience and everybody that's here.
I'm actually all right, Gary. I'm just in for my work, so I've just shoved this hoodie on today, like with an NHS uniform sitting here. So I'm just in the door and sat down.
And I'll tell you a story at started then. So on the euphoria of Saturday night, Scott was sending numerous messages on WhatsApp, all funny jokes from the world of X, which I'm not on. And in my haste, I was reading one of them as I was going down the stairs to put something in the bin. Fell down the stairs and broke my ankle. So a bit of karma for me in terms of laughing at somebody else, another team's misfortune in the course of the day. So currently strapped up in one of the mad moon boots, a pair of crutches to the left of me, and unable to walk for the next few weeks, which is a bit of a nightmare. So says my nightmare before laughing at somebody else, but it was probably still worth it to get for the result.
Don't walk down the stairs looking at your phone, Gary.
There's a lesson for everybody here. So if you're walking on stairs, please do not look at your phone. It's dangerous. It's not something to be done.
So is that you sleep in the living room then, because you can't go up the stairs?
So it's in flat. So basically, I was in the flat to put something in the bin, and then that way you hit the deck, try and get yourself back up as quick as possible in agony. But see, because the adrenaline's all still running, as I managed to make myself back up the stairs. Woke up about 3 o'clock in the morning. Couldn't move, couldn't put any weight on it at all, and then eventually left it last night to go to A&E. And going to Paisley RH, A&E, as William in Scotland know, is an experience in its own right. The day after an Old Firm game.
How long were you there for? 8 hours?
It was actually not bad. I was only there for 3 hours. I think that was the bonus. So they done piles of X-rays and then sent me up the road with this big boot on. So I think I was one of the better. But it was mobbed. It was mobbed. It was really.
You got a plaster on anymore, no? Got it to the ankle, didn't you?
They went away and said, we'll put a cast on, or we'll put a boot. We'll go with the boot first and see how it goes, because a cast meant hours upon hours sitting there and getting things done and all sorts of stuff.
I got a cast when I brought mine, but that was years ago, so I suppose.
That's right. Back in the day when they didn't have boots, Scott, you probably got the cast. So we moved on to.
Oh, you had a cast or a caliper?
Anyway, so well, it was a great result. It's what it's then done has caused me a significant injury, unfortunately. And it's obviously caused some other significant news in the last couple of days. With what 5 hours ago now, 6 hours ago, Wilfred Nancy, after 31 days, not even a month, was relieved of his duties at Celtic. I know everybody's talking about it going to happen for the last wee while. In fact, probably after the first couple of games, but it's not a bit of a shock. Less than a month.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much the brutal nature of football now, isn't it? Like, I mean, there is no time, there's no patience. I mean, that's the thing, like, sort of growing up, especially in the era that I first started watching football, like, most managers get a couple of years, even if things weren't going well, they would tend to get a couple of years to try and get their players in, get used to a system, get used to, what they were looking for. But you look at, I think this all stems from like the English Premier League, unfortunately. And social media probably plays a part in it now as well. You look at guys in England losing their job after 2 to 3 months, and it's not irregular for that to happen. I mean, it looks like Nuno could be losing his job at West Ham. It looks like Dyche could be going at Nottingham Forest. I mean, does that mean that Nuno might end up back at Forest? I mean, it just seems like a merry-go-round, and now we're starting to see it in Scotland, which is not nice, to be honest. Don't get me wrong, like, clubs can make like poor managerial decisions, and I don't think anybody like could deny that Russell Martin wasn't a good fit for Rangers, and it didn't look like Wilfred Nancy was a good fit for Celtic. But it's still pretty brutal that after whatever it was with Russell Martin, like 100 and something days, and then obviously Wilfred Nancy's gone after 31 days. I mean, it's crazy. Like the patience factor's out the window because the expectations are so high, and for Rangers to be on their second manager this season, Celtic on their third, and we're basically just at the start of January. It's just absolute madness, in all honesty.
I suppose same with you, Scott. I mean, I'm not any fan of the team across the road. In season, I was laughing so much as I fell down the stairs. But that's crazy for somebody to last less than a calendar month and to be out the door, you know, and not to be a surprise. It's probably in some ways a crazy thing. After 2-3 weeks, it would seem pretty much the writing was on the wall.
I think the writing was on the wall before he even played his first game, to be honest with you. I think because he came in after Martin O'Neill. I don't think that was a choice that the Celtic fans wanted. I don't think it's a choice that the players wanted. I don't think the players bought him anytime. I think as soon as the players met him, they didn't buy into him. I think you've seen that with some of their comments recently and some of their speeches before the game the other day. I think you've seen Trusty speaking, saying they're still trying to buy into the manager. Saying stuff like that makes you think they don't want this guy here. And then you get players throw him under the bus like McCowan, and the captain never even spoke, didn't you know? And Mr. Overrated never even spoke. So, listen, they've got who they wanted back and let them go with that. I'm not actually that bored that he's went back there. I think we have to just take care of ourselves, and I think if we can take care of ourselves, then what will be will be. But no, but happened. That was the only thing. That was the only thing they spoke about the day of my work was football. They didn't really they usually speak about it quite a lot, but they do is nothing until he gets his sack, and then they were speaking about it. Aye. So I'm happy with the way things are going for us. Anybody else, we just see. But as long as Rangers continue to go forward, I'm happy with that guy.
Yeah, and I think this podcast is not another Rangers podcast. We're not particularly interested in their team. It obviously has relevance as because of the biggest rivals, but we don't want to spend enormous amounts of time talking about what's happening across the city. Other than 90 minutes that happened.
They've still got Casper in goals. I'm happy with that.
Has he put down his pie yet? Just on this, Alexander watches regularly and listens. So I hope you're doing okay. Then to know, I see you have an ambulance out there. I don't even know what that is. Scott, you work in the NHS. I'm sure it's not good. You did ulcer, but I hope you're doing well, Alexander.
My granddaughter, she was at a hospital the other day as well. She had low blood sugars because she was constantly vomiting. Her and Jack's been having this vomiting bug, and they were constantly vomiting the whole day, and had to take her up to Cross House, and she was there for about 10 hours or something until I got her blood sugars back up, and because she was really dehydrated because she wasn't drinking. She had nappies or wet just because she was vomiting so much. So she's a bit better today, but I think everybody's catching something. No matter who you speak to, they're unwell somewhere along the line and got either diarrhea, sickness, or just not feeling great. It's brutal.
It feels like a game of top trumpets. Willie, can you beat any of those stories in? So Alexander's ulcer, my broken ankle, Scott's granddaughter. And you can talk
no, not really, mate. I'm actually pretty good all in all. I mean, I had the cold for about 2 or 3 weeks. I had it, and it's not nice at this time of year, obviously, because like the weather outside's brutal. I mean, I was doing work quite early this morning, and I think it was like -5 or -6, and it's just not a nice time of year to be out and about. But you just need to be careful when you're out as well, because I mean, this morning it was a wee bit slippery in some areas, but no, I mean, like, overall, I'm actually in pretty good health so far. So I can't really complain too much. But I mean, like, one of the things we were actually joking about in work today is when you look at like Danny Rowe coming in, like, I mean, he was. I mean, how do you say it nicely? I mean, like, he clearly wasn't the first choice.
Yeah.
At the time, you know, it looked like it was Gerrard, and then that went obviously tits up, and then it was Muscat, and apparently the deal was done. And then the deal wasn't done. And then all of a sudden, Danny Rowe kind of rocks up, and it didn't feel great because I think obviously the expectation was we were going to be appointing Steven Gerrard. And it's weird how things work out. You know, I mean, it might turn out for the better over the next 2, 3, 4 years that, you know, we did go with Danny Rule, you know, and it might work out for the better that maybe the new board gets slightly fortunate and that maybe Steven Gerrard didn't take the job.
Yeah.
Or that Muscat didn't take it. Because you really don't know how well either one of those would have done compared to what Danny Rule's done. I mean, I've said openly to many people that I think what he's done so far has far exceeded my expectations. Because, and it's not, I mean, I'm not being like mega critical of the squad, but I think it is fair to say that this squad isn't as strong as last year's.
Mm-hmm.
But the manager's managed to come in and he's stabilised us and he's done a pretty good job. We've kind of get back to basics in a lot of ways. Yes, we still have halves where we don't show up, i.e. the first half at Parkhead, which at times was really poor. But what I really like about him in particular is he's not afraid to change it. He's not afraid to do things within games tactically, going from a 4 to a 5 or vice versa, sometimes changing the shape of the midfield. If players aren't performing, he'll just take them off. And that's what I really like about him most. And I like his calmness in interviews. He never seems to get too high or too low. Everything just seems very calm and cool and collected. And for him to be such a young head coach and to have that already, especially at a job like Rangers, where I would imagine the pressure every single day must be unbelievable. He's really impressed me so far, and I really hope he can go on to be a successful Rangers manager, because until he came in the door, I've got to be honest and say I didn't really know a huge amount about him.
Yeah. I suppose before we move on to the game then, and I see Alan in the comments who usually gets mixed on and talk about anything on the football, is asking me to start talking about the football. So we'll come on to that in a moment. We'll just pick up Scott on what I was saying then about Danny Rule. So I can never remember how many games is it 12 games now? Is that maybe or 13 games? So 2 draws, 1 defeat, and 9 wins if we go 12 games. So on the form table, it's the best of any other team in the country. We got a couple of Sheffield Wednesday podcasters on when they joined, and they raved about him, talked so highly about him. You know, and Cameron, our own other podcaster, also talked very highly about him. And there was a lot of reticence or probably lack of confidence in him because of the scar tissue, we've had for the last couple of years, and the fact that Gerrard seemed like an easy option. I've heard it labelled at him a lot. They had to win a big game. Now, the Old Firm Cup final was or semi-final. Sorry, was a game so right. We're down to 10 men. The other game is a Hearts game. I think they'd consider the big game, but he's pretty much proven domestically anyway. Pretty much proven every domestic level that he's been up to the job and getting out wins while not necessarily always playing well, as Saturday also attested to some of that. You're on mute, Scott.
That's laptop. A couple of Sheffield Wednesday fans have actually messaged just to see how we're enjoying them. Funny enough, just the other day after we won, and I'm saying I was sceptical at first because I didn't know a lot about him apart his time at Sheffield Wednesday, and he's been a coach and he was still young, and I thought maybe coming to Rangers was just too early in his career because I know the pressure situation it is. I know he's done fantastic at Sheffield Wednesday, but pressure at Sheffield Wednesday is totally different from pressure in Glasgow, especially when you're coming to Rangers, who haven't won a lot over the last 10, 15 years, and we're all looking for him to change it. And he's come in this squad of players we've all said, we've all criticised him, we've all called him crap and everything else, but he's got so much out of him since he's been in through the door. And we haven't played well at times, but when he first came through the door, he said he needed results, and that's what he's been doing. And I'm getting fed up here. He's getting the wins, but he's been lucky.
Yeah.
You can say that twice, maybe 3 times, but is he consistently lucky then? Because we're getting a lot of wins because he's getting so much for this squad of players. He knows he needs back. He knows he needs players in to help this squad out, because we all know that ourselves. We've seen it in Saturday, we've seen it in other games. We need maybe 4 or 5 additions, hopefully this window, because we need some quality in the door, and we need players who need help, like in the left back position. Mahomes running an empty stuff like that, and Asgard at times is nice to look at, but in high pressure games, he's not used to that intensity of a firm game. He doesn't, because when he watches in England, he plays slow football in these 2 or 3 touches. You don't get that against Celtic. That's why I thought in our day he was so out of it until he made the change, and that's what he can see. And see if he does, if he do it, the board do back him, and we say, right, here's some money for guys to bring in. I think he'll take it to another level, because I think he's got qualities. He's got the qualities in him, Gary, and I'm looking forward so much to see where we go with Managerial. I'm not going to say it's going to happen overnight. I'm going to sit here and say we're going to win the league. But when he came through the door, I was adamant to you and Nicky, we weren't in a title race.
No.
And I'll still sit here and say I don't think we're in the race, but I still think we're third favourites.
Yeah.
Do you know that way at this moment in time? Because the squad's no change for when he came in, and these players have still got limitations. But for what he's done since he came through the door, you can't but be impressed.
No.
Who had a tenner on at 6-1, Scott? I can't remember. Was that me? Still the Rangers were in the league. I think it might have been. Always keep
You've had a big break. No more.
I know. I've had my bad luck. I must be due some good luck. I know, and I just want to pick up. John, we're really sorry to hear. You know, you watch it regularly. Just sorry to hear about your dad. So hopefully, that watching another of us talk about the Old Firm game gives you a little bit of comfort during no doubt a difficult time for you. So, I've another recent family bereavement as well. We know how difficult these times are, especially just now. So, our condolences from everybody at the pod and everybody in the comments, and hopefully you enjoy this next 45 minutes when we talk about the game in a bit of detail. Then, so. The big news, Willie, we'll talk to you as we kind of do these things first, was the team news. So out went our captain, Tav, whose form's been ropey the last couple of weeks, and also also Sterling came in and Barron came in, and I think that was pretty much as Barron was expected because he'd been rested. Sterling was expected because he'd been rested as well. And we went, I've seen some people in the comments saying we went with a 4-3-3. I don't think it is. I thought it was a 5-3, a kind of 5-3-2, and it switches to a 4-3-3 when we've got the ball. But were you surprised with the team? Team is what you expected it to be? Team is what you were happy with?
I was probably surprised that Diamandi didn't start, just because I always think that Raskin and Diamandi in these games do pretty well. I tend to find they get up and down the pitch really well. They do a lot of good work on and off the ball. But I get why he stuck with Asgard. I mean, at the end of the day, he scored 2 in his last 2. But it became pretty clear probably within 15-20 minutes that, in my opinion, it didn't look like it was working with Asgard. And fair play to the manager, you know, I mean, to make the change at half time, it's still a big thing to do that, because I mean, like, you're almost admitting fault in like the team selection, aren't you? When you do it that early in the game, you're almost admitting that you've probably got it wrong. But at the end of the day, you know, the substitution obviously plays a part in us winning the game, because we managed to get more control in the middle of the pitch. We managed to get a bit more of a high press on Celtic. We managed to start creating more chances. We defend the box a little bit better than we did in the first half, which probably wouldn't have been that difficult given the number of chances that we actually gave up. So, I mean, there's still a lot to take from the game, positive and negative, but I think at the end of the day, in those type of games, let's be honest, guys, all we really care about is winning. You know, the rest of it is just noise, isn't it? Before, during and after. The only thing that really matters is the final score, and that's all people will remember in the coming years. So from our point of view, it was a great win. I thought the second half was probably as good as we've played for 45 minutes. I thought some of our quality was really, really good. I don't really know what to say about Chermiti because he's kind of went from everything.
I think we will talk about him about depth, because I think it would be crazy not to, given where we've been just now.
Yeah.
See, then the game started. I'll just stick with you then. Well, the game first 10 minutes actually we started well. We were winning every second ball. They then have an attack. I can't remember if that's one from the corner, but we had about 4 or 5 corners and they started to go through us at will every time. 3 against 1, 4 against 1. It's quite bizarre. But after a decent enough start, Celtic then started to swamp, isn't it? As you say, it looked tactical. We looked at Fernandes was running into the following somebody into the edge of the box at times. I was saying to my daughter, I was like, what's Fernandes doing up at the edge of their box when they've got the ball, you know, and massive gaps. And while we're going to praise roll, we did praise roll earlier on. I think it's clear there was errors in the tactical setup to start with.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, we seem to kind of lose the plot for like 20 minutes where we just couldn't really get out of our half. I think it was Mikey Moore gave the ball away 3 or 4 times really cheaply. We just couldn't get the ball up to Chermiti. You know, we couldn't really get the ball to Gassama. We just seem to be getting deeper and deeper and deeper. Obviously, Celtic's goal comes from a throw-in, which is all too simple. Nobody's prepared to put in a challenge. And then once somebody like Yang gets into the box, you either, go and engage him and try and block the shot. But we didn't really do anything. And I saw some people were criticising Jack Butland. To me, it's by him before he even knows it's there. It's an incredible hit. But from our point of view, he shouldn't get that far with the ball. He shouldn't be allowed to go all that way without any real contact. I think that was the biggest disappointment from the goal, that we allowed him to basically take the ball in, turn, drive it. I think it was possibly Moore first and then Tello Asgard, and I think maybe Raskan as well, potentially. But
And I think if you not got Fernandez, is probably about 2 or 3 yards too far inside as well.
Yeah.
If it's where he should be. There's no that space to run into. It was a catalogue of small errors, wasn't it?
yeah, and it's one of those ones, mate, you can't really do that against. I mean, see, at the end of the day, look, Celtic have been poor recently under the new manager, but they still get individual quality. And you can't stand off players who can obviously hurt you in those situations. And he was probably their best player in the first half, Yang. He was probably the guy that looked most dangerous for them going forward. And I was just really surprised as to how standoffish we became after that first 10 or 15 minutes. We seemed to, I don't know if we just kind of lost a bit of sense of what we were trying to do, or maybe it's just one of those ones where maybe the game at times maybe is just too much and the players just kind of lose a bit of focus or they switch off. And you just can't do that in those games because it only takes a split second for the game to change. And we obviously seen that in the second half, which is good from our perspective. But yeah, in that first half, we've got to do so much better, mate. There's no hiding place for that first 45. It was really poor. And obviously the manager makes a change at half-time and he kind of tweaks it a little bit formation-wise. So he's obviously realised himself that it's not worked and he's obviously changed it.
Yeah. So in that first half, Scott, I'm trying to think back in what happened. So Trusty is a header that he should score. Now, given the fact that we were bigger than every one of them, it was a bit disappointing. Then Johnny Kenny, is that his name? There's 2 shots. One's actually a good effort from him. The Butler makes a really good save. The other one he should do better with. And again, there was multiple opportunities when they seemed to have it breaking on us, particularly when Barron's corner. So one of them was bizarre. Just passed it right to their player and they were running through. But they kept cutting through as well at that point in time. Although other than those 3 shots at goal didn't really create an awful lot. Despite maybe when you look back at the game, there was masses of clear-cut chances, but there was lots of opportunity to probably put the game out of sight, if I'm being honest.
They probably should have been. They could have been 3 or 4 up at half time, Gary, quite easily. The chances they had. Jack Barton kept us in it. To be fair, and to me, he was probably our man of the match. I know the second half, he probably saves Chermiti, but I think with Butland, we don't win that game. Give me a couple of saves in the second half as well. But I think the first half, we were trying to go man and man. We were putting one guy up against each individual battle, and we were only winning them. And you had to say about Fernandez. Fernandez, for some reason, was supposed to follow angles, and it wasn't working because he's dragging him out of position. That leaves a space for Yang, because I don't know what Mahoma was trying to do, and then you've got Asgard, who's awful for the goal. He moves across to McGregor and doesn't have to move across McGregor because McGregor's not going anywhere. I know Asgard's on the he's been told to stifle him, but if the ball goes to McGregor, it's going to be recycled because it's too compact in that area. But as soon as he moves, that space opens up. Yeah. And then Raskin doesn't stop across. Fernandez doesn't stop across because he thinks he's Martin Kenny, where I should have Martin Kenny. You can look at all different ways, but then the shot, to be honest with you, I kind of disagree with Willie. I thought Butland should have done better. I know he hit that really, really hard, but I thought a goalkeeper, Jack's quality, should at least get a hand in that. Just got above his hand, but I might be just picking feathers here, but I thought he could have done a wee bit better. But to be honest with you, like I said, he's still my man of the match because he pulled off some tremendous saves in the first half and the second half. But no, I thought Rangers went man to man. I thought the problem, you said well about Deal no starting. The problem with them one day is no starting is he's done that himself, his performances.
Aye.
Yeah.
He's not been trusted, and he's not been in the game a lot. And the managers thought he's brought in Tel Asgard, who's not been great, but he scored 2 and 2.
Mm.
And he's thought, I'll keep him in, I'll put Deal on the bench. Listen, if Deal was performing the way he could have been AFCON anyway, but he's not been performing that well, and he's probably left him on the bench. But when he come on in the second half, and that's why I get frustrated with Deal, Gary. I know you always say that, but I always get you, because you see what he does in the second half, and then you say to yourself, why the hell can you not do that every week against other teams with less quality? But you go up to Celtic Park and you perform like that, but then you play against someone or whatever and you're missing. It just really frustrates me, because there's a guy there who's a good footballer, but and then there's a guy there sometimes who doesn't look interesting. I just can't get it. But when he come on and changed it, the three midfielders played really well. No interchange, but it was they're all getting, but Raskin was getting forward more. And that's when he's at his best, to be honest with you, when he's getting forward. I don't think Nico's a 6. I don't think he thinks he's a 6, even though sometimes he says he wants to play there. I think he's better running into the box, making the runs. I think he does it really well. And that's where the goal comes from. But we changed it. The second half, we got on top of them quicker. We moved the ball quicker. We didn't let them set up. And for some reason, about you, but why didn't Nance or Nance, what you call him, move Yang to the other side when he's your best player?
So the other thing that jumps in my head in the first half, really, because, well, two things. One was that we had a chance with Kasama, more luck than design, then the ball goes through him. Funnily enough, I'll probably give Michael great credit. It was actually a really good save, although he probably should have just took it around him and rolled it in the back of the net. That was probably the only other chance, and then we had that disallowed goal. So even though, while we were struggling badly, you could see there was vulnerability there in the defence. You could see it would have been difficult to get through if you managed to up your game somewhere.
Yeah, look, the Gisama one sort of goes out of nothing, doesn't it? It's almost like a slight break of the ball potentially that works it. But it is a good save for Michael, because it looked like sort of Gisama did everything right. He obviously gets onto the ball, takes a decent first touch, and then the wee dink, he's doing it right. I mean, that's what you're expecting your player to do. Michael, I think it hits like his shoulder or the kind of top of his arm area. But even the one right before half time, where obviously like sort of Chermiti gets caught offside, that's the sort of thing I thought we would have tried to do more, which was turn that Celtic defence. Because they play such a high line at times, like you feel like there's an opportunity to go in behind them. And I've got to say, like the pick out for Mikey Moore was outrageous. Like the wee nutmeg right through the defender's leg for the. I mean, see if that goal stands, it's an outrageous pick out for Chermiti to pick out Mikey Moore. But yeah, look, I suppose that's maybe the wee bit of positivity that you take into half times. You know, the manager says, look, seeing that last 5 minutes here, we've created 2 golden opportunities. You know, let's get at them. Let's put a bit more pressure on that defence. We know that is where the vulnerability is. And that's not going to change now that Martin O'Neill's in charge. Yeah, they'll probably change shape, but those same players are still capable of making the same mistakes. You know, without Carter Vickers, that defensive line isn't as strong as it has been.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think more and more teams will look to get at Celtic because of that. Yes, they'll probably be more kind of structured and stuff like that moving forward, but that defence just screams out that you can get at them. You know that ours doesn't, because ours does as well, to be fair. But I think that wee 5 minutes before half time probably gave us a wee boost in terms of we were actually creating chances and looking a bit dangerous.
So half time comes in, and I think the whole front five, the midfield and front three before weren't performing at all. Mikey Moore hadn't the kick of the ball. Gisama was a couple of times did get the ball, wayward crosses to say the least. There was nothing coming at all. Asgard, as you said, had struggled badly to get involved in the game, and even Raskin and Barn, I didn't think were playing particularly well. So we were facing that onslaught. We changed tactics, Scott, to a 4-2-3 from a 4-2-3-1, bring on Diamande and go 4-3-3. Or looks like a 4-3-3. And Diamande, just pick up on him, because without him actually doing lots at times, what he was doing, he was getting across, he was moving, he was getting into positions, he was using speed, using that energy he's got, that thing he's probably quite good at, just running about the park and stopping people having time on the ball. And obviously he does help create the one that Mikey Moore scores, but it was less about what he done on the ball, but more what he done off the ball, to me. You may be on mute again. You're on something, so your microphone or something.
When the three of them are together, they do interchange well, because they know. I thought when the first half in Yasgard, Barron and Raskin are trying to cover a lot, But with what they were saying, they had a man each there to mark anyway, but they were trying to cover a lot because Asgard wasn't coming deep at all to give him any change or anything. But we've seen them there, they were interchanging. Barron at times was running forward, and you had Dio and then Raskin, but like I say, Raskin's always better further forward anyway. But the Dio and Nico know each other's games really well. We've seen it in the past couple of seasons. We've seen it up there before. They know each other on the part. I think you've seen that with the first goal as well. Dio plays the ball and he goes through, which is really good bit of skill because they're going to touch him once he was in the box. I thought they were going to bring him down, but they never. And they crossed it over to Shamati, who finished it really well, I have to say. I know you think it's a tap in, but he had to move his feet quickly because I don't think it was Ralston that was on him, it was somebody that was behind him. But I think just the way we passed the ball, Gary, we moved the ball, we got the ball out more to Gassama and Moore, and Big Shamati was given so much because he was running the channels, he was up top, he was dropping, he was just everywhere to try and pick the ball up. He was not making folk, he was laying it off the folk, but he wasn't just standing there, he was actually moving into the box. And I say to the night, I think it was against St Mirren, he wasn't dragging himself into the box, but he was against Celtic. I don't know if these two performances, Motherwell and St Mirren, have told him, right, we all know what you can do outside the box, we all know your hold-up play is getting better, and it's just, something's just tapped. And he's scored 2 goals. But like I heard David Edgar saying, if he doesn't score the first goal, he doesn't try the second one. I kind of agree with that because his confidence is sky high after putting the first one in. Do you know that way? And as soon as he's run away for the second one, I don't know why he's not challenged anyway, but he's got so much space running into. But it was a good finish as well. And the big man's in a high, and that's what we like to see. All his overall play has been really good. We've all said to him, now can he finish? And everybody's questioned him, can he finish? And he has, and like I said before, Gary, it was a price tag. It was always going to be around his neck. He said that himself, but he can't help that. And it's just unfortunate when we signed him. We want him to hit the ground running, but he was still a young lad and all that experience. So maybe this spell in and out, and then a couple of good games, no scoring, and then these 2 goals. Obviously, you just hope he kicks on, don't you? You can't see why he shouldn't. He's still going to have some games where he maybe doesn't play as well, but we all know what he can do now. That's the thing. That's when we know what he can do. So obviously we should get behind him and see where he goes for here. Because you've always said there's been a player there. I was always back and forth, and that's probably because of the price tag. But I'm happy he's the last couple of games, I have to say. Also, do you not think like maybe Danny Rose maybe matched up in the first half like Motherwell done to Celtic? Man, because Motherwell pressed him man by man, and we kind of tried similar, didn't work for us. But Motherwell didn't play with any strikers, whereas we were playing with my main striker, if you know what I mean. I'm just surmising because Motherwell kind of
I think you're right. We don't get tactics wrong. I think what he tried to do was push him back at starting, and then they exploited the space better than this time. Maybe they had realised that they had made mistakes during the week and counteracted it, and we weren't able to do it. But while you're the expert in youth players, right, you know more about youth than any of us in the podcast. So Charmiti comes in as a 21-year-old who's played very little games, highly rated in terms of potential. I think that there's obviously a reason why people think he's got attributes that could make him a star, but it's all very well good having attributes. But unless you get games and get consistent run of games, get a touch, get a feel, get to learn some of the stuff around about being part of a team, it doesn't really matter. And it's some of the issues that have been that he's literally not played that much football in his whole career. In fact, it's only now you're starting to see as he started to grow into the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's ludicrous the amount of money that he's actually moved for, given the actual games he's played. No, he's played a pretty limited amount of football for the money that he's actually cost. I mean, see when you look at him in terms of like a physical specimen, like his height, his physicality, he's actually got quite a decent touch. He's got a bit of pace about him. You can see why people would look at him and think, if we can actually get him going, he could be a good player. The problem is, for the first X amount of time he was here, we really didn't see much out of him. Like, his touch was pretty poor. Maybe he was just lacking in confidence. Well, whatever Danny Rowell's been doing, or whatever the coaches have been doing at his training ground, they've obviously gradually built his confidence up a little bit. And then he obviously got the goal at Ibrox. And then he obviously gets the goal at Tynecastle, which, all right, I mean, it's in a defeat, but this is a guy that doesn't really score a lot of goals. He's not renowned for scoring a lot of goals. And all of a sudden, he's got a couple of goals. And then he has the 2 games at Ibrox where I thought he was really good. I thought his link up was good, his touch was good, his movement was good. He was doing everything other than scoring.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I think the first goal that he scores is outrageous, in all honesty.
Properly in slow motion, the flick, the back, kind of back flick.
But I mean, see, even just like the first part of it, see when you watch like the throw in, then the wee touch for Diamandi around the corner to Rascan, and then you see his movement's brilliant. He makes that run across the front post, and you know, I mean, I'm old enough to have watched a lot of Rangers strikers who scored a lot of those type of goals, so it shows you that it's a natural thing for him to do it. But you see, when it's not natural, you don't make that run.
Yeah.
So he knows where he needs to be. But I mean, the finish for like the wee back flick into the back of the net, it's a terrific finish. And what Scott's saying is absolutely spot on. He doesn't score that second goal if he doesn't score that first one, because he's not got the confidence to do that potentially. To take the ball from halfway, I'm still slightly surprised that Trusty doesn't try to engage him.
Aye.
Because to me, if I'm a defender... No, on you go, mate.
No, I was going to say, well, it's a bizarre defending. I'm just agreeing with you. Just...
Yeah, I think... I get maybe he's thinking, well, if I press him, then Barron's standing in the middle of the box for he to score. But to me, like the biggest threat at that second is Chermiti. So you've got to get across and engage him. And fair play to the big man, you know, he actually puts it away really, really well, because it's probably one of those ones where, see, when he hits it, it's hard to get down low to save it, and you probably can't get your leg up high enough to stop it. So it's actually a really good finish. And then after that, I thought his play was really good as well. You know, the amount of times he gets his body in front of the, you know, the defender, the way that he's taking the ball in. I didn't actually see the nutmeg at the time, but obviously a few people have now put it on social media, the wee nutmeg. That's all down to one thing, and it's confidence. Football's a strange game, isn't it? You can be in the wilderness, maybe not having a great time, things aren't going well, but that one wee spark, I mean, there's nothing to say that, all right, he might be right poor in the next two games, but he might then end up scoring like another 2 or 3 goals in the next 2 games. To me, that's football.
Yeah.
That's what you get from strikers. But hopefully when he's riding this crest of a wave, that we can get the most out of him and he can keep leading that line, because I don't know if you guys agree, but see, when you look at him in terms of all the attributes he's got, his height, his physicality, the pace, the touch, he should be a perfect number 9 for a system like ours, where we can then get guys into the box, that we can get guys up next to him. So if he can do that, it makes everybody's job easier. It means that, like, sort of Gisama can get into the game more. Maybe Antman when he comes back from injury. You know, we can get Mikey Moore into the game more, especially Ibrox.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm just really impressed with him, to be honest. The last 2 or 3 games, I think he's done really well.
No, I'd agree fully. I mean, you can definitely see there's things there. No, every week we could see there's bits and pieces with him, but none of it was coming together. And I think one of the big criticisms has been that he doesn't have a natural goal scorer's instinct. That first goal certainly showed the movement of somebody that does have a goal scoring instinct, and it's maybe just about developing it. As you say, confidence is huge in football. You know, for any player, you know, you can see a lot of the players. And Danny Rose talked about that a few times recently about the players have grown together. They've been coming together, and they're asking when the next game is. They're getting excited. You know, when they first went in, they were bruised and battered, and all the stuff that went with it, and that takes time. Confidence doesn't happen overnight for any player or any club. You know, it takes a bit of time, and maybe are starting to see some of that. Certainly, Shamiti's probably a prime example, and even Asgard to an extent the last couple of games in his goals. See the second goal, Scott. Just the one thing the one thing I remember, right? What it reminded me of. I remember was it the Hibs, the Scottish Cup final, Rangers v Hibs, and was it the Anthony Stokes runs down and our defender? I can't remember his name now. It was terrible. Centre half just stands to actually runs in and hits a shot for the same place. It was exactly. It just reminded me of that. I think it was, what was his name again? The defender. Remember 2016, the cup final.
I'm not giving a talk Gary, but
same thing. He ran for the halfway line, just ran down the park, and the guy just never went towards him.
It might have been Kiernan. Was it Rob Kiernan? Was it? I can't remember who played that.
It was Kiernan. That's what stuck in my head when I was watching it. It was just bizarre defending. I think, as Willie says, you go where the danger is. Any centre half's taught to go where the danger is. If Chermiti then gets a pass to Barron and Barron scores, fine, you've still done your job by going where the danger was. At the time, it was just really weak.
It's like the goal United scored against us a couple weeks ago with Satterford ran through after beating Fernandez. Giga didn't go across to cover because he was too interested with the guy behind him.
No.
Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying exactly the same, but now you talk about defenders not going across, but he still had to finish it, and he finished it really, really well. And Danny will have told the board, hopefully, what he needs, and what Rangers still need in that squad, because the squad's nowhere near what we require. So do you two think you will get players in, or do you think they might think, well, we beat them, maybe don't need as many as he says?
I'll come to Wally in a second. I mean, I think we'll get players in. I think there'll be at least 3 players in, whether they're loan signings, whether they're immediate starters or not, I don't know. But I think we'll probably bring 2 or 3 players in. Part of it will depend on whether, and again, Willie maybe know more about this, guys like Finlay Curtis going in loan, Cameron going in loan, and other ones maybe leaving to create space, because you can't just keep adding numbers.
You know, Cortez, isn't he?
I don't really count him, but do
Hull City looking at Kieran Dowell by all accounts. I don't know if that's true or not, but so I've seen.
We always say this: we can't just keep bringing in players. You have to get some out as well. So I do think there'll be 2 or 3.
We can't go with that squad again for this second half of this season. If we don't, that squad's not good enough. Because Hearts have already started bringing players in. They're going to bring players in. We have to bring, and the minimum has to be 3. I don't know if you agree, but it has to be 3, sometimes more, because we need cover on the left side. We need cover defensively, centre back, and probably a midfielder, and probably a right sided winger, and maybe even another striker. We do need cover across that part, because the whole squad isn't good enough if we get through the next half of the season, because we will drop points like we've done in the first half. Maybe not as many, but we will, no matter how much Danny Rowe's working, because he's working a miracle with this squad. But there's only so much you can get with some players, because some players won't be in next season, some players will. Yeah. So he does need help.
No, definitely. Well, see that you're on tonight, so before we finish off the game, just what is your thoughts about the transfer window? What do you see happening?
I mean, it's so difficult, isn't it? Like, you do feel as though some bodies will go out this month. Rothwell's the obvious one. He clearly is surplus to requirements. I think the club would love to get rid of Kieran Dowell and Rabbi Matondo. Even if it was free transfers, it wouldn't matter. It's just to clear the wage bill with they two. I do think it's probably time for guys like sort of Danilo to move on. So I think it's become more clear recently that the manager would rather use Miovski or Chermiti before he'll play Danilo. I mean, like, sort of Barami's one of those frustrating ones, because at times you watch him and you think he's a really good player, but I still think he's one that they might move on. I think we definitely need a left back. There's too much onus on young Magoma. Penrice, I would be really happy if we got him. I do think he's a good player. We definitely need a 6, which allows Raskin and Diamandi to be higher up the pitch, doing where they do their most damage, in my opinion. And we definitely need at least 1 or 2 in the final third. But yeah, again, that might just come down, guys, to who goes out the door. Potentially, if we do move on 1 or 2 more, you might see a little bit more business, but it's going to come down to getting players out. Because they were still sitting with a lot of guys there who, let's be honest, but they're not really bringing much to the squad.
Yeah, not contributing, haven't been, and that's the same every season, I suppose. Every year, every club, there's a number of players that don't contribute; they're just there. But we've got a number of them that we've been there for a few years. Be it Matondo, Dowell, and others. Danilo, you just can't get rid of.
Thing is, Gary, even like if you look at even just Rothwell, Dowell, Matondo, Danilo, I mean, how much is that in a week's wage?
$100,000 minimum, at least.
Aye, so like if you can like utilise that $100,000, because say I don't know, for instance, like if Kavanagh says, see if you can clear those 4 guys off the wage bill, you can have that $100,000 a week to bring in players. So if you can then bring in 4 good players at $25,000 a week, I'm not saying that's what they'll do, clearly, but if you can go out and sign 4 guys at $25,000 a week, and those 4 guys are potential starters, that's going to improve the starting 11, which then improves the squad, because like the guys that are doing well at the moment might drop to the bench, but then they're pushing to get back in the team. At the moment, it feels like, I think he looks at the bench sometimes and thinks, no,
I'll just leave it.
Yeah, because I think he looks at, I mean, and again, it's not a disrespectful thing, but he obviously doesn't really see it in Lyle Cameron, even though Lyle's done a good job in Scottish football for Dundee. He obviously has brought Kieran Dowell into the squad, but he's not really utilising them, so he obviously doesn't see a future for him. NCL's only come on sparingly when we've kind of run out of defenders. Rothwell's obviously just not really been part of the squad since the managers took over. And as I said a couple of minutes ago, Danilo seems to be getting utilised less and less and less now. So he's clearly picked out the ones that he feels are not really contributing. And I mean, I don't know how the recruitment will work now with Farewell being away. I don't know who's making these decisions. I don't know what the manager is obviously asking for. But you would like to think that we'll have somebody in within this week, at least one starter in this week. I think they've got to get the business done as quickly as possible. The longer you leave it, there's just opportunities to drop points, and then, you know, like the confidence that you've built up from that victory at Parkhead maybe goes because you've not been able to bring in the players. And sometimes a new signing can boost the support as well, mate. I think we've seen that over the period as well.
Would it boost support if it was Josh Windass, Willie?
Look, I actually liked Josh Windass the first time because I thought he was a smart footballer in terms of his positioning and his goal scoring. But Josh was one of those guys that seemed to rile people, didn't he? I mean, I was a
Marmite guy, isn't it? It's kind of Marmite type person.
Yeah, I mean, I was at the Partick Thistle game that night where he walked when he scored, and he was giving it a wee bit to the supporters, and I'm kind of like, it's probably not your best idea, realistically. But when you look at his goal scoring record at Rangers, it was very, very impressive. For a young guy,
but it's better than the one he played in before.
Yeah, that's a fair question. Because then we had two guys from Mexico that at times you didn't really know if they were fit enough to play or maybe sober enough to play. I mean, it's hard to believe that we signed like the big Mexican striker because we thought he was a better option than Morelos. I mean, like Morelos was signed as a backup to him, which is quite scary. And then obviously the big man with the best hair I've ever seen in a Rangers jersey. I mean, if it's true that he basically turned up drunk like 3-4 days a week, but he still managed to score like 12 or 15 goals or something like that while he was drunk, which is just, I mean, that was a wild time to be a Rangers fan, wasn't it? Like fucking Joey Gardner up front, Joe Dodo playing. I mean, see when he scored that goal at Partick to send us into Europe, that was just, it's weird. I mean, see when you look back now, we have watched some pretty bang average Rangers teams in the last 15 years. This team probably isn't quite that bad because there is still quality within this squad. I still believe that like Raskin and Diamandi are very good players. I still think John Souttar's the best centre half we've got. I know people will probably be throwing stuff at the screen now, but I do think John's a good centre half. I still think Jack Butland's a really good goalie. And yes, there's some young players in that squad that need to do more, but I still believe we're a slightly lesser quality squad than we were last year, and that comes down to the decision making of the people that were there who are now no longer there, allowing players to go and not replacing them with the same standard, if not better quality than what we had, because that's, I think, clear to everybody now that we didn't replace Cherney, we didn't replace Dessers, we didn't replace Egerman. You know, we've not replaced those standards of players.
Yeah. And some of that, again, it's proof of being the pudding as months go by again. Maybe Chermiti will be a better asset than Egerman was potentially going to be. Maybe Gassama at 21 may develop further. You know, the reason for not signing Cherney was it was going to cost, I don't know, 10-12 million over wages and transfer fees, and there was no resale value on it. So
we have got a young squad of players, Gary. I mean, if you look at the team, it's quite young. It's not like we've got a lot of experience. There's a lot of younger guys. So maybe if we do bring one or two players in, it might be a couple might be more experienced.
Aye. Yeah. And just to talk about one of those younger guys then, so self-confessed Rangers fan with his Rangers supporting family and Rangers supporting girlfriend and her family, Mikey Moore, who had a really poor first half, that really struggled in the game. But as the second half, when he started to get into it, he then gets the ball, again, really good play for Dio. And for the first time, I think I actually seen Gassama setting somebody up, playing the ball through. Usually his decision-making is a bit wavered. Mikey Moore hits a shot that's, when he hits it, I'm thinking it's a bit of a feeble shot, and for some reason the deflection takes it closer to Schmeichel, still manages to dive away from it, and we're 3-1 up. And he's loving life. He's running right to the Rangers fans, dodging was it British Bulldog? Is that the game he used to play? We dodge in between them to get to the Rangers fans, and it was by that point they then looked beat.
It's Mikey Moore. Doesn't matter where he goes to play. If he wins it, I want to say if he wins a European trophy with Spurs, he might win one last season. But if he wins stuff with Spurs or goes on and finally play with England, you'll never experience a better time running into Rangers fans. I'm telling you, dodging the polos. I always love him. Listen, Mikey Moore's going to be one of these guys. We're going to look back in a couple of years and say, that boy used to play with us. He's such a good player. He was quiet, but he's one of these guys you can't take off because he's got moments in his game. He can do stuff that he did. He can get a goal for nothing. He can create for nothing. And to think he's only but still 18, it's scary. The boy's got so much talent, and you can see he loves playing with the club. And the abuse he got at the start of the season, I wasn't one of the ones that gave him abuse. I gave a lot of players abuse, but I never gave him any. He could easily say to Spurs, just bring me back down the road, but he said himself it's going to benefit him long term what he's had to go through with obviously Martin and leaving the club, going through, and then Rule coming in. He'll learn from that, and it will. So it just shows he's a strong lad for his age, and he's an intelligent lad. And when he speaks, you listen to him because he's got a lot of sensible things to say, like some other players who are a lot older. I just think he's a quality player. He seems a really nice guy, and I wish him all the best. And I just hope we can bring him back next season. But I can't see it whatsoever because I think if Spurs don't take him, for something like that down in England, they could probably get 20, 25 million for him, maybe more than that, just because he's from down there. But the guy's phenomenal football, and he's going to get better.
Yeah. It's always great to see a lone player that embraces it and just kind of, you can see they get it, and they don't necessarily always work out, but half the battle is getting it and actually thriving in that kind of environment, which I think one of the things you can be able to say for, despite a lot of the tribulations.
Is it Warren Feeney's daughter he goes with?
It's Feeney? Something like that. It's
in Northern Ireland.
I think the thing that really stands out to me about the kid is that he's clearly got a lot of confidence.
Bags it.
Yeah, and he's got quite an arrogance about him. But you know what? See, when you know you're good, why should you not? You know, we've got a young player in the academy, Kyle Glasgow, who's very similar to that. Like, it's an old kind of Scottish term, but that gallousness, you know, you sort of exude that confidence when you're on the ball. Mikey's got that. And Scott's right, he's probably going to have peaks and troughs in his career, good and bad spells, but we've still got to remember he's only a teenager. And he's come up and signed for Rangers, which, let's be honest about it, it can't be easy because the expectation is you need to come in and hit the ground running. You need to be able to do everything straight away. And I mean, he's got unbelievable feet. You know, when he's got the ball, he's got that lovely little burst of pace, that wee 5-10 yard burst. He's like a slalom runner when he's running as well. Like, it makes it difficult to actually get a tackle in.
He's balanced when he's running.
It's beautiful, isn't it? And that's the thing, like obviously I'm lucky enough to talk to like some scouts and stuff like that at the academy games, and they'll talk about, you know, what they're looking for in certain types of players. And I know, speaking to one or two of the guys up at the training ground, they think Moore's going to be a top player. And Spurs have had to work, you know, incredibly hard just to keep him at the club because of, you know, the amount of clubs that were interested to signing him before he signed professionally. And look, there's no doubt, you know, that kid's probably going to go on to have an incredible career. And I think what Scott's saying is true. We should be thankful that we've been able to bring him up here. But we should also be making sure that that doesn't stop us bringing through our own players, because that's clearly a big thing as well for Rangers. Because, you know, if you can get one or two of these guys into the team that do well and they then move on, and we can make 10 or 15 million, 20 million pounds from them, that's got to be part of our bigger kind of business model, that, you know, we can develop these players and get them in the team.
Just a question on Kyle Glasgow, Wally. What's happening with his contract? Is he signed?
A Portuguese boy?
Well, officially, yeah, I think his mum's Portuguese, his dad's Scottish, so he can obviously play for both. I think Rangers have obviously made him an offer. I mean, I don't know kind of how much further it's went than that. But to me, he's one of the most gifted players we've had probably since Gilmer, in terms of like that arrogance, that quality that he possesses. He he does things that you just don't think are possible. He scores goals that he shouldn't be able to score. He's quite small, but he's so strong. Like, he just doesn't get dunted off the ball. This is a guy that's already played for the first team in a bounce game at 15-year-old. So did Ashton Scally. So, and I think
you see a lot of these academy games, right? And a lot of boys, but there's obviously big clubs come in, especially down south. They can offer them life-changing money, not just for them, for their whole family, as what happened to Billy Gill. I mean, Rangers can't compete with that. So how do you keep boys who, obviously, if he stands out that much, like you're saying, and if he does, there's going to be clubs all over the UK, maybe Europe, because with Portugal as well, he's been playing with them. Looking at this boy. So how do Rangers beat off that competition?
They probably need to put him in the first team squad for the Annan game. I think that's got to be something they've got to consider. I mean, there's already chat that Ashton Scally could be off to Manchester City.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Because he's that good. I mean, Oliver Goodbrand was an exceptionally talented left back who went to Newcastle. But if you talk to people that watch the academy games, scouts, agents, etc., many of them think that Ashton Scally is better. And he is a real talent, Ashton Scally. But if Manchester City come a calling, it's very difficult to turn that down. And I get why players don't. I think when it comes to somebody like Kyle Glasgow, Rangers just need to throw the kitchen sink at it, because he is potentially somebody that could be an incredible talent, but it's obviously got to work within the confines of what the club are willing to spend. But I do think for exceptional talents, you maybe push the boundaries a little bit more than what you would do. And I think that comes down to, the ownership. If Danny Rule goes to Kavanagh and says, look, we think we've got a real player here that could become a real superstar, and it's probably, if Rangers even get Kyle Glasgow on a professional contract, there's probably already value in him.
Yeah.
For instance, if you something like Ryden Maguire, who's a young goalkeeper at Rangers who's kind of highly sought after as well. I mean, by all accounts, Rangers have already turned down more than £1 million for Ryden. So the value's there. And so, if you're talking about that with Kyle Glasgow, so what would be the harm in saying to Kyle Glasgow, I'm just plucking figures out here, right? I don't know what has been talked about here. But if Rangers would even go, there's like $2,500 a week, or $3,000 or $4,000, whatever it is, if this is what the kid's looking for, like whatever the magic number is it worthwhile paying him $200,000 a year, but his value is maybe 3 or 4 times or 5 times that? So does it not make business sense and football sense to keep him, because his value is higher than what his wage would be? And that would be the same with Ryden. I dare say Ryden's not on $200,000 a year, but if his value is $1 million, or $1 million plus, so you've got to see the bigger side of things. It's not just about the player; it's about the value this player brings by signing that contract.
Before we go back to Garage, but actually, is that not one of the reasons? But the academy gets viewed and it's not working, not just Rangers but other maybe academies in Scotland, because when you get any decent players, teams from down south just come in and pinch them anyway, and then you're having to look again. So you're not bringing players, you can't bring players through because they're the ones who you think can manage to go through, they're getting stolen, and the ones you eventually put through might not just make the grade.
But it's tough though, because Brexit has impacted it massively. In the past, the English clubs were handpicking the best Portuguese, Belgian, Dutch, Spanish, Italian players. Now, because of Brexit, they need to wait until they're 18. So when you're looking at players in Scotland now, the English clubs just come and handpick all the best Scottish players. But what the Scottish teams have to do to keep these guys now is do what Hearts did, which was put James Wilson in the first team. Because they obviously, like I said to him, look, you signed this contract, we're going to put you in the first team. Aberdeen's done it recently as well with a young player. In my opinion, this is just my opinion, right? I'm not saying Rangers should do it, but see if Rangers want to keep an Ashton Scally or a Kyle Glasgow. Unfortunately, Luke Rankin's injured at the moment, or he would be another one. But if Rangers want to keep Kyle Glasgow, what's the harm in having him on the bench against Annan and bringing him on for the last 10 or 15 minutes?
I would agree. And it's probably better than having Kieran Dowell on the bench.
Yeah, that's how I view it, mate. This is a player that's our future. This is the guy that could potentially become better than the guys that we've got in the first team. So what's the harm in having him on the bench and giving him that impact? I mean, by all accounts, he's a Rangers fan as well. So, does that impact his decision? Does the manager need to sell that to Kyle? Say, look, you've got a chance of being a Rangers player here. I'll keep you in and round about the first team squad. You can come in and train with the first team if you sign professionally. You'll be part of this and that. But he's got to look at the other side of it and see what's happened to maybe Bailey Rice, or what's happened to Leon King, or what's currently happening with Finlay, where he's probably not getting the minutes that maybe he thinks he should. So it's that balancing act, mate, and it's one of those, we could probably talk about it for hours, to be honest, but I'm up at like
one last question. That's another question. Just because you're here, Willie, right? So
that's all right.
Deviating a wee bit from the old firm and Aberdeen preview, but I'm interested in this. So see somebody like Bailey Rice, obviously one people talk about a lot, and it's clear that it's not working out the way it was expected. But I always look at the example of Josh McPake as well. Just somebody that I've watched when he was younger, outstanding ability, but his career kind of fell away for a while. But now he's looking again. He's on the rise. And how difficult is it for coaches and scouts and those people that are involved in it actually to know when or if the potential will ever be fulfilled?
I think there's probably only a handful of players that you genuinely see and you think, wow. I mean, Billy Gilmer was one of those. I mean, Billy Gilmer was... I think I've told Kerr the story. We played away at Hibs one day. It was like a reserve game, and they had like 4 or 5 first-team players, and Billy was that good, they were basically just taking shots at kicking him. This was like a 15-year-old kid playing against like some Hibs first-team players who were playing for the reserves, and it got to the point where like sort of Billy reacted and ended up getting sent off in the game. Now, Rangers ended up going on to win that game, funnily enough. We scored a last-minute winner, which we celebrated thoroughly in the touchline because it was some strike. But that told me at that point that Billy was already better than some first-team players in Scotland, and this was a 50-year-old kid. And another story was we were getting beat by St Mirren. I think it was either 3-1 or 2-0. I can't remember what the score was, but Bully then basically single-handedly pulled us back into the game. I can't remember if it finished 3-2 or 4-3. I would need to look back at the game, but this was a 15-year-old kid that could change a game because he knew he could just dictate games. So yeah, there is players out there. A bit like Ben Doak. Ben Doak stood out at Celtic, that pace, that power, that directness, that quality that he had. So yeah, I think there is some ones that are more obvious than others, but there's no doubt, like Rangers have had some incredible talents. Alex Lowry, technically unbelievable. Josh McPake, incredible talent, went out on loan at 17 years old to Dundee, but his career just took a bit of a downward spiral, but now he's on the way back up. You've had guys like Kai Kennedy, yet again, incredibly gifted player, probably just didn't ever have the physicality to maybe play up at that point. Look, mate, you can go through so many players. There's always been talent in Scotland. Kerr will tell you that from all the years of watching players. But you just never know if they're going to be good enough to take it to that next level, and that'll always be the thing that people talk about. Alfie Hutchison and Oliver Goodbrand obviously went to Newcastle last summer. Will either one of them end up playing for Newcastle's first team? I don't know. Will they maybe end up playing down the leagues in England? Potentially. Will they end up back in Scotland at some point? Probably. But as Kerr says, like the financial aspect of a lot of these things comes into play as well. And when it's life-changing money for not just the kid himself, but his family, I certainly would never criticise anybody for doing that.
No, definitely not. Right, let's get back to where we're at. Right, let's back to the present day then. So, just a final point on the Old Firm game. Right, there was 2 things that were brought up afterwards. Apparently, I thought the refereeing was adequate. Didn't think it was anything major, but for some reason, Emmanuel Fernandez, his elbow, and William Miofsky's tackle were drawing a bit of publicity as potential red cards. I don't know, Scott, you're shaking your head. I'll come to you then. Your thoughts on them? I didn't even think I don't know why they even talked about it, if I'm being honest.
Miofsky's, he won the ball, but he went through, so it is a yellow card. It wasn't a red card. Fernandez is nothing in it. It was just Ingles is all over. Ingles is all over. He didn't even get booked, but didn't you know? Ingles is all over his back. He goes like that and moves his arm. Like, I was watching Sky at lunchtime on my phone, and they were saying, you always know that the referee on it, he was saying, you always know when somebody's going to elbow you, because he clenched her fist and go like that. But he said, but Fernandez's hands open, so he was just trying to shrug him off. He said that's a difference you'll look at as for a ref. That's what he was saying. So if you look back, his hands like that, he doesn't go like that. He said if you go like that, then you're putting power in it to say you intentionally want to injure somebody, but he says his hands like that. So he said a year a little worse, but I don't think. I just thought it was two players trying to win the ball, and as soon as obviously you get any wee touch in the face, you're going to go down. Football players, but didn't really marks them and goes and they got up straight away moaning because he didn't get more than he was asking for. So as soon as a player gets back up, you know they're fair injury. But because it's Rangers, because it's in an all-firm game, it's always going to be news. See, if they'd have won, it would never news. But because they didn't win, someone has to come up, Gary.
No. I thought I don't want to focus on it because I thought it was nothing myself. Do you know what I do like to do? So I said to Scott on Friday night's pod, if we won the game on Saturday, would we win the league? Your thoughts, William, then? So now we're level with Celtic, 6 points behind Hearts. How confident are you now in us going on?
I still think Hearts are favourites because they deserve to be. The fact they've beat ourselves and Celtic would suggest that they're good enough to do it. So at the moment, Hearts are in the driving seat. You know, they've got a 2-game lead on us. So, you know, Rangers and Celtic are going to have a really, really strong next 18 games. And we're obviously going to play Hearts at least twice each as well, because we're obviously going to be in the top 6. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it, mate. This is why you watch football. These are why you get involved in it. And yeah, I think it's going to be a really good end to the season. And I think Hearts will be right there until the very end.
And Scott, we're not previewing the Aberdeen game in much detail. One, because the three of us think it's probably going to be postponed tomorrow with the heavy snow in Aberdeen and the fact they can't get down. They've obviously had a managerial change with Jimmy Talleen being sacked yesterday and Peter Leaven coming in again as caretaker manager. What I was going to, and what I did say to my daughter, and actually was, we've talked all season about how the apathy at the stadium, even when we've been, since Danny Rose came in, we've never really quite had a spark yet. Did you think with us winning on Saturday that was who was going to be rocking? I suppose basically that's my question, because I kind of felt that it was going to be a turning point for getting everybody back on side.
I think going and winning there, when you actually, it makes a difference. I know we won there last season, but the league was kind of over. And when you win there, even though you're winning there, you still celebrate winning the league. I think winning there yesterday can prove to the players they've got a chance. I still think we're third favourites to win the league. I still agree with Willie. I think Hearts are the favourites just because they've got a 6-point lead. They're going to bring in some players. They beat us and them. I think they beat us and them both twice, haven't they?
Both twice, yeah.
Aye, so you can't discount them, no matter how people say the bubble will burst. It's January and they're still sitting top of the league. So, I mean, you just never know. But we're in with a chance. Any out of the three could win it, but I still think Hearts are favourite. But I think somebody in the comments said it probably depends on this window, to be fair, who brings in who. If they can bring in some quality, it could tip the balance our way. But just consistency. And I would still say going a game at a time, Gary. Don't get too carried away. Even though we beat them, you've got 2 good big games against Aberdeen, and Aberdeen aren't great. Jimmy Talleen probably lasted longer than I thought, because some of the
Scott could have kept him in the job, wasn't it?
It probably did to a point. It probably did, but I thought they were poor. Then when we run a games, I think won 4 games in a row, and then they get beat by 8 in a row. So, but Aberdeen, know how bad Aberdeen. I know no matter how bad Aberdeen are, we go up there and struggle all the time. We go up there and struggle against them, and they can get beat the week before and get beat the week after. But for some reason, as soon as Rangers turn up, they turn up. I don't know if that do we point to that or not. I'm not sure, Gary, but. So I'm just hoping if a game's on tomorrow night, we need to beat them at Ibrox anyway. We need to win. That's the one we need to win. But Sunday, we have to go up there and we can't lose. We can't lose, but we can't even. A draw is okay, but we need to come away with 6 points. If we can come away with 6 points out these 2 games, and then maybe get 1 or 2 guys in, because you've got the Scottish Cup game coming up. So I think that will set us in good stead for the rest of the season. But like I say, I'm just taking a game at a time still, because I don't want to look too far ahead. I know you stuck 10 quid on it, but I'm not that brave.
That's a lot of 10 quid my Sky Bet account. That time I just thought I'd get rid of it. For there, in terms of the Aberdeen game, then, well, we are kind of working the assumption it might be postponed, so I don't want to spend ages talking about it. But Daniel did talk about the reconnection with the fans. You could see the stuff after the Old Firm game there. How much of an influence do you think having the crowds, having the atmosphere, having that spark back between players and fans may help us on this run, and particularly playing somebody like Aberdeen, which is always a good game to get the juices flowing.
Yeah, look, I mean, the crowd's obviously going to be high after, the victory at Parkhead, but you know what Aberdeen are like, home or away, it's going to be a tough battle. Yeah, again, the first goal in those games are always hugely important at Ibrox. Aberdeen take the lead, they'll sit in, they'll make it difficult. I think that's why it's so important that if the game does go ahead tomorrow night, sort of preferably a goal in the first 15, 20 minutes would be massive. Hopefully you can then go and kill the game off, maybe give some players a rest, because at the end of the day it's a busy week. You play Saturday, then obviously Tuesday, and then play again on Sunday. Then obviously the European games are coming round not too long after that, after the cup tie. So I think if there's an opportunity to rest and recuperate players, that would be perfect for the manager, in all honesty.
Mm-hmm. So if the game does go ahead, Willie, would you foresee any changes to the starting lineup from Saturday game?
I think you might see a little bit of rotation, but not a huge amount. I think you might find that Diamande comes in, funnily enough, for Tello. Potentially, maybe he looks at maybe one change defensively, maybe just to keep the legs fresh. I don't know how many games Sterling can play back-to-back kind of thing, so maybe it means that maybe Aarons comes in or Tavernier comes back, but I don't think there'll be too many changes, and it will just be to make sure that players aren't getting burnt out, because the manager's shown he will do that. When he took out Barron for one of the recent home games, I think people were quite surprised by that. But the manager obviously kind of works a lot on the sports science side of things, and they look at kind of overload on the legs and the body. So if he feels somebody needs a break, he'll give them it.
Well, yourself, Scott, do you foresee any changes? I see Curry's in there with straight away with no Tavernier.
I think Sterling might miss out just for he's played a few games. I think he maybe want to come out. I would keep him myself, but I think he might miss out. And probably Deal comes in for Asgard. I think you have to go with Schmidt again. I know people are saying maybe rest him because he put a lot in the last couple of games, but he's on a hot streak. You don't rest him now. Do you know what I mean? He's on a hot streak. Just leave him in there. But the manager has, like Wally said, the manager has changed it at times just to give players a rest or stuff like that. So you never know, but I think you just keep your nucleus side in. But I think he'll keep maybe make one or two, but no more than that if the game is on. If it's not, then he'll probably go with the same. Deal involved, and we'll just go with the same on Sunday. I think if it's no game tomorrow night, but one or two will come in. Probably Tav and let's say Deal. That'll be it.
So if we're looking at score prediction then, Scott, so on the basis of the game tomorrow night at freezing cold, -3, -4, Ibrox goes ahead. What's your score prediction?
I'll say 2-0 Rangers. And also, I'd just like to say, we were talking about the three teams at the top. You can't discount Motherwell, by the way, because I've watched a couple of their games and they're playing some of the best stuff, you'll see. They just, see if they signed a striker, by the way, in this window, they're going to take a lot more points than second half of the season, but I think they could make which way the title goes, because it's still to play the Lotties again, and I think they could cause a bit of heartache somewhere because they're a really, really good side. The boys got them playing really, really good football. I would say my Ibrox, it was a wee bit predictable at times, but we struggled to even for the first 25 minutes at one point. We were struggling. We didn't even really know what we were doing. So I think you could keep an eye on him as well. But I think 2-0 tomorrow night. And I'll say Sharmiti and I'll go with Big Fernandez again. I always pick the two.
And obviously our set pieces were abysmal, Willie, on Saturday, so Fernandez didn't even get a look in any of them. Although he has a big presence in there these games. So what would be your score prediction?
Yeah, I think probably something similar to Kerr, probably like 2-0. I think, again, getting that first goal just allows us to control the game more. And hopefully when more chances come, we can take them. It would be nice if it was maybe 3 or 4, but I would be more than happy if we kept a clean sheet and won by a couple of goals.
So it's been a good weekend in terms of the result. We've moved ourselves level with who are Celtic, who are still the title favourites. So hopefully that gives us the impetus now to go in the second half of the season. We're now 20 games in, 18 games left. We're pretty much at the halfway point, and given the start of the season where we had one win out of the first 8 games, to actually still be in with a shout of a title at the halfway point is quite ludicrous in some ways, much anything else. But we'll take it, and hopefully with a bit of strengthening over the next couple of weeks, we can keep the results going. If we can put it this way, if Danny Rose keep the same results per point ratio between now and the end of the season, we'll be there or thereabouts. And if we can add a bit more quality, help us get there, we could be onto a good thing, which would be the most bonkers season in a long time, I think. We've done a bit of an extended pod tonight. It's something we brought in some youth discussions as well some transfer discussions, and obviously went into depth about the Old Firm at the weekend. So hopefully, thanks for those that contributed. Thanks, Wally, for coming and joining us tonight. We'll have you back on any time when it suits you. So obviously, I know you're working a lot and lots of other games, so it's great to have you on.
Cheers, mate.
And Scott, see you all the time. So I won't be there. I won't be the game tomorrow because I can't get up the stairs. So
I won't be either. I'm working 8 o'clock, so I'll be watching the TV as well.
So when the pod's back on a Friday, I won't be there, but Scott and others, well, you can tell us what happened in the game. For those in the comments, they can tell us what happened, keep us up to date for there. So we will see you soon again. So thanks everybody for watching. Please like, share and subscribe and all that other stuff that goes with it. And take care everybody. See you Friday. Bye now.